What's up guys, it's JT Traveler, and today we're doing a little bit of a different video. Today we're going to be going over the OM-5 Mark II with the 14-150 lens. This is the kit. I just wanted to go over the buttons, some of the settings, just so that way you guys have a grasp on what the camera is about. Alright. Here is the OM-5 Mark II. Beautiful looking camera if I do say so myself. Yeah. I love OM systems. They make some great cameras. So we have the lens hood on, we have the protection filter, we also have the screen protector. As you guys can see, if you guys see right here, I had banged the screen on the corner of a countertop and hit the screen protector first and not my actual panel, which is nice. So let's get into the outside of the camera. First things first, you have this button right here. This is a little hard for me to do the positioning just because the camera is up there, so I'm not used to this. But this first button right here is your drive mode. This is how you go from taking one photo to taking a bunch of photos to doing your time. Like say you want to do a 10-second delay, you can do that with this button here. This button is how you control whether you're seeing through the viewfinder or the actual I think it's called the screen. I think it's the monitor, but this screen right here. So if I hit this button, it will toggle between the two. So now I can only see an image through the viewfinder, and it's giving me my settings down here on the screen. But I'm going to toggle this to where it's automatic, to where it switches for me. This knob right here in the corner, if you guys can see it, this one right here. So if you put your eye up to the viewfinder and everything's blurry, even though you're pressing the focus button, that is because you need to change this to your prescription. So what you'll do is you'll point this camera at something, hit the green button or hit the shutter button until the image turns green or whatever is in focus turns green. Then you will set this to your prescription. You'll just turn it. I'm not going to turn it because I don't want to mess up my prescription, but you'll just turn this little knob until it becomes your prescription. You can also look at these numbers to see if they're sharp in the viewfinder. And then you just turn this knob until it gets sharp for your eye. Let's stay on this side and we'll go over to the side of the camera. Right here you have the mic jack. So this is going to be how you do, say you want to upgrade your audio and put a shotgun mic on top. If this is too complicated, you don't have to worry about this. Your mic will plug into this port right here. This port will be for, what the heck is that for? So in this bottom section you have your HDMI and USB. So this takes I think it's either a micro or, I think it's a micro HDMI port right here. So if you want to project your photos onto your TV, a monitor, you can do it through this port. You just have to get a micro HDMI. And then this one right here is your USB-C port. This is how you get your photos transferred to your computer or to your phone. USB-C, you just plug that port into the one on the bottom, and then you'll be able to transfer files. This, of course, is your screen. It's articulating. Fully articulating. Really nice screen. Say you want to get a photo of a building, you can turn it to where it's facing upwards, or if you want to shoot over a crowd, you can do this mode. Very versatile. We will get into these very soon. I'm going to skip over them for now. Right here, you have two functions. You can turn it, and then you can also click down. So if I turn it, for me, I have it to where this front dial controls my aperture. Don't worry about this part right now. We're just going over the buttons. You half press to focus, full press to take the photo. This one in the back, I have it to where it changes my shutter speed. There's no button here. This is your computational photography button. We'll go into that later. And then this is your record button for video. On the back of the camera, you have a switch here. This is also configurable. You have a button in the middle as well. And then you have an ISO button right here on the far right side. Then you have your menus, your info. You have this toggle switch. I think this is what you call it, but you can basically move around your focus point with this. You have the OK button. You also have your trash bin, and you have a way to preview your videos. On the side of your camera, you have the SD card port. I like to make sure my camera is off before I even decide to open this at all. So once my camera is off, I can open this up, take my SD card out. All I have to do is press in, and then it comes out. To put it in, you just press it and it'll stay in. Then on the bottom, lastly, you have your battery port. Easy peasy. So you got your battery. These batteries are really good. They last a long time. To put it back in there, you just go in, make sure it's behind that tab and it's not falling out by itself. And then you're able to close it up like that. Opens and closes by turning this little knob right here. Right now I have a plate on there so that way I can put it on a tripod. This is called Arca Swiss plate. This is universal, so I can use it in all types of different tripods and accessories. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the outside of the camera. These are just for my straps. It's a quick release Peak Design system. Love these a lot. Now let's dive into these. All right, let's take a look at this dial. All right, so let's start with it on auto. So if I turn the camera on and I'm in auto, when it comes to making sure the picture is exposed correctly, this will basically do these three settings for me. So basically in this mode, it's kind of like shooting with my phone to where it's doing everything for me and all I have to worry about is the composition, making sure everything in the frame is even, lined up, and I'm having a good time. Next, you have program mode, which is the P. In this mode, you can set your exposure compensation. So basically in this mode, the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO are still automatic, but I'm actually telling the camera if I want the picture to be darker or lighter. So say for example, I have it in auto mode, but it's way too bright. I'm getting hot spots and it's not exactly what I'm looking for. I can shift it over to program mode, and now with this dial, based on so it'll have a number and then it'll have the indicator on top. This dial is on the top of it going this way, or as an arc, it's arcing, so it's telling me it's the front one. But basically what I'm doing now is I'm telling the camera, hey, I want this image to be brighter, or hey, this has a lot of hot spots in the top. Now I want this to be darker because I want to make sure it's exposed for this area right here. So you're basically just telling the camera, hey man, I want the image to be brighter or I want it to be darker in program mode. Next, you have A. What does A stand for? A stands for aperture. Okay, so in aperture, we're now taking control of this middle number here. As you can see, the indicator on top of the number is in a downward motion. So the arc is in downward motion, meaning it's relating to this toggle right here, this dial. So when I move this, I can move the aperture lower or higher. I can also control my exposure compensation, which really deals with the ISO and I think it's shutter speed. So if I mess around with that, yeah. So it moves both the, actually my ISO is not on automatic. Okay, so now I fixed it. I put my ISO on automatic by hitting the ISO button. Oh, you know what? Let me clean up my camera real quick because it's dirty. I'll be back. All right, sorry about that. Just had to run and do some water to clean that off. Cool thing about OM systems is that it's weather sealed. So that way you can basically spray it with water and be fine. Anyways, what were we talking about? Let's just reset. So we went over to aperture priority. In aperture priority, make sure your ISO is set to auto, so that way you don't have to worry about that. And now all we're worrying about is aperture. So I'm not going to go into depth what aperture is in this video, but you would usually be in this mode if you're doing portraits or you're doing landscapes. And so for example, say this number was a 2.8, that is like that's basically what this lens is shooting on right now. So you see how much blur is in the background from my hand to this matte right here? That I'm shooting at 2.8, so I'm getting a lot of blur. Versus if I were to raise this up to like this number being an f4 or f8, there's going to be less blur in the background. It would be more things in the background will be more in focus, basically. So you're basically expanding that focus plane, letting in less light. At 2.8, you're letting in a lot of light. Actually, I'm not going to go into that right now. But just know this setting is really good if you're doing like portraiture and you want to control your aperture. But we're not going to go into that one. Next, you have the S. S stands for shutter priority. So now we're not focused on our aperture anymore. We are focused on our shutter speed. This is a very valuable mode for wildlife photographers because in wildlife, your shutter speed matters a lot. So if I'm shooting a bird or going for a bird, my shutter speed is going to be pretty high. It's going to be all the way at like 1,000 to 2,000, pretty high number. And that just means if there's any movement from the bird or myself shaking the camera at all, it's going to be compensated for. So I'm just going to give you a quick example. We're going to look at the mat. Okay, so I'm going to drop my shutter speed all the way down to like 30. Okay, so say I focus on this mat and I take a photo by sneeze. Achoo! When I look at the lines, look how blurry the lines are. They're very blurry. Nothing is sharp. It's just a bunch of motion blur. So say, hey, I'm taking a photo of a bird and I know my shutter speed is going to have to be above 1,000 or pretty high, probably like 800 or more. I can now take that photo, but say I sneeze again, I go back to the photo and look at it, man. Everything is, now it's a very bad settings right now, so it's kind of dark. If I was outdoors during the day, this would be a fine shutter speed to be at. But if you look at the past one, this was at 30. My shutter speed was set at 30. People call it 1/30, but I just go 30 just because keep it simple. This one's very blurry versus if I go to the next one, sharp. So it compensates for any movements, catching the action still. Everything is in life still. So bam, capturing it right there. Versus if I have it too low and birds flapping their wings are going to be blurry. For reference, I like to take people's photos around 200 to like 160. But as you can see, as we're moving it, it's basically just doing our exposing for us. So that way we can just worry about having the correct shutter speed for what we're shooting, and it just does the exposure for us. All right, so next you have manual mode. This is where you have full control of your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. I have ISO still on automatic, but let me take that off real quick. I have my ISO button set to this one, so move it around and bam. Maybe I'll make it 800, and I have to drop my shutter speed down to be properly exposed. But now we're controlling our shutter speed, which is how much motion blur we get, aperture, how much is in focus, and then ISO, which is just the brightness of the image. With Micro Four Thirds, you can't push your ISO up too high or you're going to see a lot of grain and noise, which is, most people don't find that pleasing. You can also put those images into a software editor like Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom, and clean it up a lot. That's why I usually do it to all my photos, just so that way I'm getting the best image possible. The OM-3 and the OM-1 Mark II they have a stacked sensor, so they deal with ISO a lot better than the OM-5 Mark II. But if you give the OM-5 Mark II a lot of light, then it performs really well outside. Or a faster lens, it performs really well. I love the images straight from this camera. And yeah, just a little bit of editing and they look amazing. So next you have bulb. I haven't used this mode too often, so I'm not really going to go into it in depth, but I know it's you can do really cool things with this mode, and maybe I'll dive into it more in the future. Next, you have a custom setting. So then in this setting, you can customize it to whatever you want. I think I have it in mono mode right now, so right now it's shooting black and white. So say I just want to go out in town, do some black and white photography, I can do that. So this can be fully customizable. Say I want these settings to be for real estate, I can set these to real estate settings and go from there. Next you have your movie mode. So this is how you do all your videos. Say there's a cool thing happening and then you don't think photography is going to capture the moment. You can just set it to your video mode, hit the record button, and bam, you're recording and doing your thing. There are settings in here. You can change your frames per second. So you can do 24 frames per second for, well, let me show you where it's at. So if you go to the menu, go over here, you have different sizes. We can shoot HD, We can shoot 4K. We can do cinema 4K. It gives us more megapixels. Then you can shoot 24 frames per second in this mode, and then in 4K you can shoot 29 frames per second. So 24 frames or 23.98 frames per second is usually made for movies. If you're shooting like YouTube videos or family videos, you'll be shooting at 29, which is 30 frames per second, and that's going to give you like more of that YouTube look or commercial look versus cinematic. So I'm just going to set it to 29 frames per second. Your shutter speed is going to have to be double your frames per second. So if my frames per second is 30, I'm going to have this to be 60 or 80 if I want to capture more. 60 is going to get you that natural motion blur. So this is what you're seeing right now. Everything's natural. If I were to raise my shutter speed on this camera, it'd be very choppy. Think about the movie 300. All those action scenes are very choppy because they raise up the shutter speed. And as we established earlier, that cuts out motion blur, and that's why everything is sharp and edgy kind of. Yeah, so that is your movie mode. Next, you have your art mode. That's how you do your profiles. And this one has less profiles than like the OM-1, or actually the OM-3. That one's a really cool camera because you can set up different stuff. You have this mode to where I think it's like a automatic mode. So say I want to do like light trails or nightscapes and all this stuff, I can just go to this and I think it does everything for you. So it's basically an automatic mode for photo styles or photography styles, nighttime portraits plus landscape. So you can do a lot of cool stuff in here. Close-ups like macro photography, this would be very handy. So yeah, focus stacking, different modes in there. Not going to go through it today, but I'm pretty sure you can look up a tutorial if that is something you're interested in. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to put it into manual mode. Bam. All right, so now we're going to go more into the interface of the actual camera. If we press OK, this middle button is going to take us to this screen right here. Up here you have your mode you're in, so this is M, I'm in manual mode. You have your, let's bring it back. You have your shutter speed, you have your aperture, and you have your ISO. Over here you have your focus modes. So if we click on our focus modes, we have different selections. We can do, I usually use this one, which is like a spot focus but expands, so it's expanding spot. You also have a single to where everything in this little box will be in focus. So say, I use this a lot when I'm aiming for the bird and I want it to aim at the face. I can put this box on the face, half press to focus, and everything in that box will be in focus. Next, we have an even smaller box. Then you have all, which is basically going to do the autofocusing for you. Whatever it thinks needs to be in focus will be in focus. You're covering the whole area of focus. And then you have large, you have middle, but I usually keep it in expanding spot. I like to aim for a certain area, and if it thinks something else needs to be in focus, it will shoot off and put that in focus. So let me see if I can give you an example. Maybe too close to the object. So yeah, it kind of expands from that spot. You can see that it's not hitting the same area every single time. It's moving around. So yeah, I like this setting a lot. And you can also change it to where if you're just toggling this, you can just swipe this button and it will change different modes as well. So very nice. All right, so here is your exposure and compensation, or your exposure levels. So you can do different settings, but if you're just beginning, I probably wouldn't mess with this too much. I would probably keep it regular for now. This is your connection, so you got your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth. When you get this camera, I would set up your app because the app is really nice. It's kind of like airdropping photos to your phone directly from this camera. Right here you have your different profiles. So this is kind of like, this messes with your saturation, your contrast. You have different modes you can go to. So I usually keep it in eye enhanced just because I feel like the image straight off camera is really nice. And I can use this, whatever the camera sees or I can use this profile and edit from it pretty easily. So I usually keep it on eye enhance. You have vivid, natural, muted, portrait, monochrome, and a bunch of other stuff you can customize. But for me, I usually just keep it on eye enhance just because I feel like that profile, the natural profile, or not the natural, but the profile from the camera looks really well and I enjoy it. You have your white balance. I would keep this on auto. This is warm, if you want to keep warm as well. So say you have a warm light, you can keep that warmthness with the light. And then if you want to do more advanced white balance, moving around, you can move around this dial and change it to where, hey, if something's too green, you can bring that green layer down. So let's go back to it. So I can bring this down, bring it up. You can kind of just mess around with it to get it to where you like it. Next, you have your settings. We're not going to go in there yet. Next, you have your focus modes. You have single autofocus, continuous autofocus, manual focus, preset manual focus. I don't know what this one is. I have to look more into this. I usually keep it on continuous, so that way it's always refocusing. Then after that, you have your face detection. So you have, for this camera, it only has like human detection, but you also have like an OM-3 or the OM-1 Mark II and other cameras. You have different modes like looking for animals like birds, dogs, bears, wildebeest, bears. I think I already said that one, and cubs and whatnot. But yeah, this one only has people. So with this, you can have it to where it detects a face. You can turn it off. You have face and eye detection, so basically it's looking at the person's whole face, but also their eyes. You can also have it to where it's focusing only on the left eye. So say their left eye is facing the camera, it will pick up the left eye or the right eye, just depending on which one you want. I usually keep it on, just face an eye, and let it do the guesswork for me. You have this flash mode, so when you have a flash on, it'll activate this, and you can just change different settings with that. On the next row, you have your drive mode, which is the same button as up here. You have single, silent single, so say you're in like a wedding or something like that, and you don't want your mechanical shutter to make a lot of noise, you can put in silent, so that if I take a photo now, it's quiet. Versus, if I go back here and take a photo, it's louder. But I like that shutter sound. Sounds pretty nice. Then you have sequential. So now it's making a noise and taking more photos. So if we want that to be quiet, we just go over to the one next over, silent sequential, and now it's all quiet. I'm gonna have to delete all these photos later. Yep, and now it's like different settings like fixed, pro capture, timer, so you have 12 seconds, 2 seconds, and then there's one to where you can change the different duration of your timer and whatnot. So pretty cool. I think that's that one back here, so you can do 7 seconds, just different other modes and whatnot. I'm not going to go into that right now. After your timer settings, you have the metering. I would just keep it in this first option. This just has different other modes, but I personally just keep it in this first mode. But if you want to learn more about this, it's called metering. You can look up OM-5 metering settings. Then you have your aspect ratios. I usually keep it at 4:3, which is taking up the whole sensor. But you have 6:9, 3:2, and yeah, 3:2, 1:1, 3:4, just different modes. But I like to keep it in 4:3 and just crop from here. Then you have your stabilization. So with stabilization, you have, and basically with stabilization, the actual sensor in the camera, if we look at it, to take the lens off, by the way, you'll press this button right here on the left side, down and twist. I like to store my camera with the pins upwards because if these get scratched up, it could mess up the connection. Yeah, if we look at the sensor here, it actually is stabilized. So when it's turned on and I move, the sensor will stay in the middle as best as it can to stabilize for any of my movements. When you're taking this lens off, my house is clean, but if you're in a dirty environment, what you want to do is have it faced this way, so upright or down, so that way no dust is falling in there and going onto your sensor, because what could happen is those little dust particles will come up in your images, and then you have to get sensor cleaning. So for best practice, when it's open, keep it face down, or just don't open it at all in any dirty environments. So, yep. So, and how I put it back on is I just line up this red dot with the red dot in the inside. So, let's see. So what I just did is line this red dot with this red dot in the inside, and then turn and click. And it should be good, and we can turn it back on. Anytime you're opening up the camera, the SD card, the battery, or the lens, turn off the camera. It's just best practices. A very important setting. This right here is probably your top 3 important settings. So when we go into this mode, or this one right here, matter of fact, let's start in the menu. Let's go all the way to the first one. All right, so you have your image settings. This is how your photos are going to come out. You have JPEG and you have RAW. JPEG files are your standard files. They're a smaller size, a very good looking file, heavy. You have different detail modes. RAW is basically the camera just taking photos. JPEGs have been processed by the camera. RAW are just photos that are like basically not touched by the camera, easy to edit, but bigger file sizes. So if you don't want to do any editing on your photos, you're just going to shoot JPEG. But if you like to edit your photos, make sure you shoot RAW. I usually shoot RAW and medium JPEG. So that way my JPEG is small and I still have my RAW file. That way I can select the RAW files I want and delete all the RAW files I don't want, but I still have all the JPEGs for my storage. If you want to just do RAW, you can shoot just RAW. You can do large, super fine JPEG. You can do medium superfine JPEG, and the superfine is just meaning how big, how much detail is going to be there, and superfine is going to be the highest detail. You can do large normal, which is it's like a medium detail level, and then you can also do medium normal, which is that's still going to be a medium detail level. It's not going to be anything crazy. I have it set up to where I shoot RAW and I also shoot medium superfine. So it's a RAW file, basically the unedited photo, and I have the JPEG, which is the edited JPEG, a smaller file, but still a great detail, so still super fine. So these are my settings. If you don't like editing your photos, just shoot in JPEG. And JPEG I'll probably shoot in as medium super fine. I find those to be really good, and they're not a huge file, so those are nice. And just below that, you can just change your different settings. Detail settings, so say I want a large, but I don't want that much information. I could put a large, normal amount of detail, or I can do fine detail, or I can do super fine. So it's going to be a bigger file size, but if I want more detail on my JPEGs, that's the one I'll put it on. And then you can just configure any of these different categories as well. So, yep, do that. All right, so this is your menu. I am not going to go over everything today, just because I think this video is getting a little long, but some other things you might want to know about is computational modes. These I'm definitely going to go into in another video, but these are really cool aspects to your OM system's camera, things that you can do that other cameras can't. Pretty cool. You have your focus settings under AF, that stands for autofocus. Then you have this little video icon, which you can go into your different video modes. And these will look, you have more information here if you're shooting on the OM-3 or the OM-1 Mark II. But yeah, different settings. You have your playback settings here, button settings. So with button settings, all of these buttons are configurable, and I think I will do a part two going in depth with that as well, but not today. This wrench right here is going to go over different settings for your actual camera. So we're not talking about your photo settings. Now we're talking about how the camera is set up. So that's what you're going to be in the wrench for. And then this last section right here is your settings. So basically you can put your favorite settings here, things that you want to get to quickly. So I kind of have it set up to where my grid settings are here. But yeah, we'll get into this menu system in another video, because I think that could be another video as well. But today we just learned a little bit more about the outside of the OM-5 Mark II, and yeah. So hopefully this video helped you out a little bit with your OM-5 Mark II. You can apply most of these functions and menu system stuff to other camera brands as well. It doesn't have to be OM-5 Mark II. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, leave them below. Let me know. I'll try my best to answer it. Hopefully some people in the community can answer your questions as well. Thanks for watching. Have a good day today, tomorrow, and yesterday.